Hi, this is Jess. Welcome back to Dear Craft. Okay, today I am taking these very old butterfly specimens that are in these like floating frames, and I'm going to reframe them. So those frames belong to my grandmother. She gave them to my mother, and then my mom's just been keeping them in a drawer, and so she gave me them, and I was like, okay, let's make it work. They weren't to my style, so I decided to remount them, I guess we could say. And so I bought this shadow box, and then I bought a couple different matte papers just to see what I liked. And I really wasn't finding the color I like to go with the butterflies best. And so I was really thinking, like, I love color. I'm an interior designer. I'm like always playing with color, and color tells a story. And so I decided I wanted to have a very specific color called Arsenic by Farrow and Ball. And the reason I wanted that color is that color basically represents like a very specific time period. It was a color that was created in the Victorian times with actual arsenic to make that color. And it was used a lot in those times. And also in Victorian times, like naturalists were like becoming very popular and specimen keeping. And I love the look of that. And so I thought those two would marry really well together, using that arsenic color with the butterfly specimens. So that's kind of just like the gist of like this craft of like how color can tell a story and give it so much more depth. Again, it's a very specific color. If you kind of understand where that color comes from, I think it just lends itself to like a richer piece of artwork that's now going to be hanging in my home. And then I wanted to take you through like my mistakes. So I just decided to paint one of those matte papers, and it just dried terribly. It was super dimply. It was like the paint was obviously way too thick. So then I was like, oh, I'll try a piece of cardboard, and it just wasn't smooth enough. So I knew it wouldn't work. So I actually had a piece of like of that really thin foam that I used for my daughter's Halloween crown left. And I was like, okay, this is really smooth. It's thick enough to take on the paint. I'll cut it down to size. And so that's what I did. I painted 2 coats of it. Farrow and Ball paint is quite expensive, but you can buy these sample pots that are relatively inexpensive if you're doing like a small craft project. I did try to match it with, I use a lot of Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams in my business, but that color specifically, like I couldn't match it. It just had to be it. I think it looks really great. I lost a couple butterflies. I started with 6, and just they were so old. Like you would touch them and they would just fall apart. And some of them were really stuck in their old frames. So yeah, I was left with 3, and that's okay. I just improvised and decided to mount them a different way in a different position. And I still think it came together really nicely. I love the color of the arsenic with the orange and the yellow. It really makes the butterflies pop, I think. And I just used some really tacky glue. I didn't even want to use hot glue. I was afraid that would be too damaging to the butterflies. I really have no memory of these hanging in my grandmother's home, and I didn't even know my mom had these until she just like opened a drawer one day and I saw them there. So I don't have like this big significance to it, but I still think they are special. They were once owned by my grandmother. I don't know where she bought them. I don't know how long she had them for, but now they're in my home and they've been given a little update, and I think it turned out really great. What do you think?